It's almost weird to think about the fact that despite the Niners ending the season 6-11, they still managed to have the fourth best total offense in the NFL. They managed to average 376 yards per game with over 40 total touchdowns. And while their rushing offense ranked 12th, it was their passing offense ranking 4th that helped them achieve that 4th overall rank. But if you were to listen to certain people, you would have thought the offense was dead last. And it's easy to think that because despite how efficient they were, there was still one area of the field that the offense struggled in the most. And it was easy to see where that was. If you rewind time back to the start of 2023, no one knew just how good Purdy was going to look coming back from his elbow surgery. Many people didn't think he'd be the same, and for some, they really hadn't bought into the hype that Purdy generated from the limited sample size he had in 2022. But as the season went on, people started to believe that the Niners looked unbeatable. Except it wasn't because of Purdy. Or at least some people didn't think it was because of Purdy. Because standing behind him, or sometimes beside him, happened to be one of the most versatile players in the entire NFL and arguably Purdy's most potent offensive weapon, Christian McCaffrey. You see, the reason why, at least in my opinion, McCaffrey was so potent in 2023, and you could even go back to 2022, is because of his versatility. He's a threat in the backfield because of how he runs the ball, but he can be even more of a threat when he lines up as a receiver. And that, more than anything, was a major factor in one particular part of the field. I can't speak for all fans, but as soon as the offense got into that part of the field, people were most likely already groaning, knowing that the field goal unit would soon hit the field. And trust me, we'll get to that soon. In 2023, when the Niners would hit the red zone, the only question people were asking was, is this going to be a rushing touchdown for CMC, or was it going to be a passing touchdown to one of the players that weren't being covered because of CMC? But let's pause on that for a second, because the answer to that second question could have been CMC. Because as good of a running back as Jordan Mason was in 2024, I said it in episode 4 that what separates McCaffrey from most running backs in the league, even a running back like Saquon Barkley, is the fact that CMC is an excellent receiver. Now don't get me wrong, he's never going to be an elite receiver like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, but as a running back, he ranks amongst the best, if not the best in the current era of the NFL. But it was clear from week 1 that him not being on the field affected the offense more than what people originally thought. See, the final score of that week 1 game was 19-32, but Purdy didn't throw a single touchdown the entire game, and the offense was only able to score 2 on the ground. For those good at math, that leaves 18 points. That's 6 field goals. Now, let me remind everyone that Purdy did have that amazing throw to Ayuk that he could not hold on to, but still, that would have only been an extra 7 points, which would have made the score 19-36, assuming that the field goal count would have gone down by 1. That's still 5 field goals. Let's be real, the 2023 Niners could have possibly turned 3 of those into touchdowns. Already, people were wondering what was going on, but because they still won the game, many people weren't too worried. Fast forward to week 3, and Purdy and Jennings were left to drag the offense to an early lead, and Purdy's connections to Jennings in 2 of those 3 touchdowns occurred in the red zone. Once again, people didn't worry because that connection was going strong, and then they lost that game because the Niners simply couldn't score more points. Then, in week 5 against the Cardinals, the Niners lost the ability to kick field goals due to Jake Moody getting injured, and suddenly their red zone success became an issue. When you rewind back to 2023, there was one player that gave the Cardinals a lot of trouble, Christian McCaffrey. He scored 7 touchdowns against them, including a touchdown in which he was so open that he was able to fall down, get back up, and get into the end zone without being touched. And in this game, the offense simply couldn't score. Purdy was able to put up 1 touchdown, with the other coming off of a blocked field goal that Lenore grabbed and took into the end zone. That's 2 touchdowns, but 23 points, meaning 3 field goals. Now, I'm not going to pile on Jordan Mason here because he was trying his best to hold down the running back position as best he could, but it should be noted that there was a very costly fumble late in the game that could have possibly been another touchdown on the board. And it didn't get any better from there, even when McCaffrey finally returned. For those that have watched the whole series, I alluded to the fact that Purdy and the Buccaneers have been intertwined throughout his whole career. His first start in 2022, and consequently his first victory as an NFL starter, his first perfect passer rating, and consequently a record-setting passer rating, and in 2024, he would accomplish something that people were still asking him to do. He would lead a genuine game-winning drive. Now, before you point out the obvious, what I mean by that is this. In that first Raiders game, he drove the team down the field and the game would have been won if the kicker had made the initial kick, but he didn't and the game would go in overtime, which they would then win. In the Browns game, he did the same thing, but Jake Moody missed and the Niners lost the game. In the divisional round against the Packers, he did execute the game-winning drive, but there was enough time on the clock for the Packers to get the ball back and attempt their own. That, of course, ended in that interception. So when we look at this game, the game was tied, and Purdy led a true 2-minute drive, which left Jake Moody just enough time on the clock to make the kick and win the game, which he did. Now, I know what people might be expecting at this point, and trust me, that will be discussed, but not right now in this episode. And so, with that kick, Brock proved without a shadow of a doubt that he could lead the team down the field and win the game when needed, except the game ended with a field goal. Many people still weren't happy because, even with McCaffrey back on the field for the first time all season, the red zone efficiency was still an issue. And that's because McCaffrey, to many, didn't look like McCaffrey. He looked slow. He didn't look as explosive. To make no mistake, the connection that he and Purdy had was still there, and many people pointed out that as soon as CMC was back on the field, Purdy started checking it down a little bit more than he had been all season. You see, my personal theory, and one that many also believe, is that Purdy didn't trust his other checkdown options. It was clear that none of the running backs could truly replace McCaffrey in the red zone, and it really showed when the red zone efficiency stats were released for the year. You see, in 2023, the Niners led the league with a 68% success rate, and at the end of 2024, they fell to 14th with 57%. An 11% drop. Unfortunately, after McCaffrey's injury against the Bills, it was clear that the Niners really needed him because field goals simply weren't cutting it anymore, especially since fans were once again calling for a certain player to be removed from the team. Remember that Bucs game? I did say we'd be going back to it soon, and I think it's time to rip the band-aid off completely because it's time we address the elephant in the room. Because that game, I believe, signaled the beginning of the end for the 49ers as we knew them.